I order you to be quiet. Help, help, I'm being repressed. That'll never get old. Narrator, it did. This is the new Be Quiet Silent Bass 802. Well, it's not super new, but it does come with a lot of fans. And I've got a lot of computer that I need to build. Now, I've already put the power supply in here. It's good to go. There's a button or something I have to press somewhere. I don't even know how this works. Yeah, look. Buttons and sound absorbing foam. Now, this is the lighter weight foam. I mean, it's heavy, but it's not super heavy. We'll see how good it muffles sounds. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. Yeah. No. Turns out I was an idiot. Fancy. Look how easy that was. Totally not like the other side at all. What's the line? Say it with me. That was appealing. Those are magnets. You might say, no, I don't want the fan at the back. I want the fan at the front. Okay, it works perfectly. Perfectly. You gotta squeeze the tabs a little bit to give them a little bit of a push if you want to remove the front entirely. So this comes out without you having to do anything special. And then you can get to the dust filter and all that. And so the question you may be asking is, do you even have to pop the tabs off the front at all? And the answer is no, you don't. I want to change the front fans or swap for radiators or whatever. Okay. There you go. Now the front breathes from the sides. I'm not sure if that's going to work out for us in the grand scheme of things. Now I know what you're thinking, but sir, my priorities are not for this case to be as quiet as it possibly can. My priorities are on airflow. Why? Why would you force me to run with the gaudy aesthetic of just removing this and having only the front dust filter? I don't want this. It's going to be a little bit louder, I understand that, but I want the better thermals of not having the front. Well, Be Quiet's got you covered. Look what I found in the box. It's still going to be quiet. It's not just going to be as quiet. Look, there. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? That's how it should be, right? I do have a bottom dust filter so it can breathe and bring in air from the bottom. If you're a crazy person and use the top as an intake, guess what? There you go. There's a dust filter in the top now. Are you really happy? You've got 6 intakes and then just, the flamethrower that will be the single 140 millimeter exhaust. The reality is that it's gonna probably try to force air out the bottom since the air, the bottom is kind of open. So you definitely want to use the plastic panels in the bottom of the tray and stuff like that to try to prevent air from flowing the wrong way. Just configure the top front exhaust and be happy. Look at all that cable management. So much room for activities. Seemed kind of cheating in this case review. The power supply is in there, which is real easy to cable manage when it's not connected to anything. For the power supply, it's 1,000 watts. Be quiet. Now in terms of spacing between that front foam and the fans as they're installed, it's about 1 inch, give or take, a little over 1 centimeter, like 1.5 centimeters, something like that. It's gonna vary a little bit depending on your fans and the setup that you go for, that kind of thing. But it would let you run, if you're gonna run this with a radiator, a setup such that the fans are on the outside and the radiator is on the inside. I think that's a little easier from a mounting standpoint to be able to have that kind of an option. I would like to point out though, how much room you have at the top of this case. This is an enormous amount of room. This is plenty of room for a 360 millimeter radiator if that's what you want to run with. You could even go with something even a little bigger than that. That is no problem. There's a couple screws that you have here at the top. You can pop that out. With no magnets, this thing's gonna work like a chimney. I do not think there is enough room between the top of the panel here and the mounting situation to be able to mount the fans on the top and the radiator on the bottom the way that I was describing for the front. I just don't think that's gonna work well and be, adequately breathable, let's say. I have a very slight preference for top-mounted radiators as opposed to front-mounted radiators. Any of the heat that's being added to the radiator is gonna be exhausted directly to the outside of the case. Otherwise, you're bringing in cool air from the outside and then dumping that warmed air to the inside of the case. For most use cases, see what I did there, use case? That doesn't really matter too much because you're not really adding that much heat to the case overall. It can make a difference if you're using a much higher end build, something with like multiple GPUs, a higher end CPU, like 200-300 watts of a CPU. That can be a little bit more challenging for that kind of a configuration. Of course, you could also do a dual radiator configuration if you're doing something with a custom loop and have a radiator in the front and the top. I think that's perfectly acceptable to do it that way. You can also go with specialty fans, fans that are thinner than normal. I've got these really killer Noctua fans here somewhere. I got these really super thin 120 millimeter Noctua fans. Oh, look at that. They're Noctua fans. They're really good. So you can use that with this and, but you're getting really off script. I mean, this case comes with two big 140 millimeter fans in the front and another one in the rear. So even though you do have a lot of room here, I would still only recommend a thinner radiator with fans, and probably only a 360 millimeter radiator to ensure that you've got appropriate motherboard clearance with this case. I think I want to install a triple 140 radiator in this case and see how it does. And I'm going to mount it in the front rather than the top. As with most other Be Quiet cases, they've got some special sauce that's fairly unique to Be Quiet. First are these modular panels. So you can hide your wires right here. You can basically just route them through this plastic. You can take it out entirely and replace this with a drive bay that mounts there, and end up with a fair number of 3.5-inch drive bays if you want to go that route. You can also pull up the plastic panels at the bottom here and reconfigure the inside to be able to support a couple other options. The motherboard tray is also removable to make it easier to work on your system. You can pop out a couple of these screws, they're not riveted, and then the entire motherboard tray will come out. A lot of Be Quiet cases like the Dark Base Pro 900 will allow you to invert your motherboard tray if you'd rather do that, or if your cooling demands it, or if you're running another configuration that really wants to do that. I'm running a Threadripper and a Dark Base Pro 900 in the inverted configuration for various reasons, and that works really well for me. In terms of motherboard support, it's not, SSI EEB or EEATX or anything like that. You can put a standard ATX motherboard in here. You've got 7 slots at the back, so the extra tall motherboards are not going to work at all. The wider motherboards can work, but it may block your wire grommet things, and you'll be using the plastic things instead. So even if you were going to do like a Threadripper build, as long as you use one of the Threadripper motherboards that are wider and not taller, you can pretty much get away with it in this case. You may not be able to use the rubber grommets because the motherboard will be in the way, but you've still got, plenty of cabling opportunities there for however you might want to do that. Of course, micro ATX, flex ATX, ITX, all of that mounting, stuff is here. You can mount those, it's no problem. You've got 2.5-inch bays here behind the motherboard tray. And the motherboard tray cutout is nice and large, so whatever custom mounting solution you're using for your cooler is going to work no problem. For the top panel, you've got one USB-C, a fan control, and 2 USB Type 3. Personally, I'd rather have another USB connector rather than a fan control, but hey, that's just me. We've also got analog headphones and analog microphone. The trend now is to go to a single connector that's 4 conductors, but I actually like the 2 different connectors a little better. The power button's nice and big, and it lights up. If you have a cat or another pet that likes to get in the warm area from the warm hot air exhaust of your computer, they're definitely going to accidentally hit the power button, but that's fine. The reset button, however, is recessed, so it's not going to accidentally click that one. Now, as with all things cases, this is a tour of the case, but I think to truly get to know a case, we've got to do a build. So let's do a build. Well, we're working on a build, and we need adequate cooling. Look, I've gone with the 11th gen Core i9. Okay, it's a thing. Don't give me a hard time about that. Got some conversations to have about that at another time. For now, I'm building that thing. And yes, 275 watts. Yes, 325 watts. That can be a thing that you could struggle with that. Well, I've got the Arctic 420. It's not the 420 Blaze It, but it is 420 millimeters. I don't know, that's something Krista said. No, not really. Carbon neutral packaging. Nice job. This is definitely the, the soy inks and all that stuff. You can tell by the way it feels. Not that I'm complaining. So, 420 millimeters. Do you need 420 millimeters when you can get 360 millimeters? The performance of the cooler is about the same. The soak time is a little bit more, not dramatically more with this cooler. I can already tell you going into that because of the laws of physics. It's the same pump, it's the same cold plate. This is not appropriate for Threadripper or anything like that. It can work on Intel X299. This has an offset mounting mechanism for AM4 CPUs as well, which shifts the cold plate slightly so that it'll be more on the compute dies on, say, the Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 9, like the dual compute die type situation. And it does make a few degrees of difference if you do that. To figure that out, oh, look at that. The fans come pre-installed. That's my level of laziness. That's nice. Oh, they're pre-installed backwards though. Unless you're gonna put it in the top. So like, if you mount it like this, that's perfect. But that's not how we're gonna mount it. We're gonna mount it like this. So, +1 and also -1 for my level of laziness. Good Lord, look at that radiator. Look at that, look how thick that is. The agents of chaos are loose in the office, and I have to do this, or when I come in the morning, it's gonna be really bad. So Arctic 420. I've put that on the box. That is where the special and extra mounting hardware will remain. So in case I decide to revisit this in the future on, you know, some accessories that I did not use, I will have that. Because if I don't do that, the agents of chaos will have made my day very bad. Being nice to future me. So future me, you're welcome. I did that for you because I care about your mental health. And well, just between you and me, it's not been all that awesome lately with the pandemic and everything else that's going on. So I mean, you know, I don't want you not being able to find the accessories in this box 6 months from now to be the final straw before you go on a homicidal. Oh, I guess the camera's... Let's get on with the build, shall we? So what's the motherboard we're gonna use with our build? They don't like it when you do that. Don't do that. The Z590 from Asrock with polychrome sync. This video is not even sponsored, but this is a competent, functional motherboard that gives all the wattage to the Z590 platform. It even comes with an extra VRM fan because, you know, it knows what you're into. It knows what you like. It's gonna do that. All right, now we've got our build. I've got the Asrock Phantom Gaming Tai Chi in there. That's the 5700 version. The 6800 XT version is a little indisposed at this exact moment, but I plan to put the Phantom Gaming 6800 XT in there before all is said and done. I've got G-Skill Trident Z memory in here. Now, the new Rocket Lake platform supports up to 3200. There's a little bit of a catch with the whole Gear 1, Gear 2 thing, so be sure to check out a build video or a how-to guide on that. This is more of a case video than anything else. This is the Rocket Lake CPU in here, in this motherboard, the Asrock Tai Chi Z590. PCI Express 4x16 for my graphics, which is, you know, 5700, it's nice. And also PCI Express 4 for the NVMe. This is our Asrock Z590 Tai Chi motherboard. Check out this gear. It moves with precision timepiece accuracy. That's a really sort of cool feature, I think. That's awesome. We're going to do a full performance review of this build. Don't worry, that's coming up. Good job, Asrock. So that's been a quick look at the Be Quiet Silent Bass 802. They've done a pretty good job, I think, with the case, and I didn't run into too many problems in the build. I think overall it turned out really well. The fan control at the top, okay, I can live with that. But I'm satisfied with how this turned out for the build. I'm Wendell, this is level 1. I'm signing out. If you decide to do a build with one of these and you want to show it off, come to the forum, post pictures. I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.